Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm just the guy partying with the MILFs next door.
I am Nico, the vampire with the most inconsistent voice you have ever heard.
And I'm Dan, and my favorite candy is the little strawberry things.
Those are very good.
Yes.
And from all of us here at Don't Open That Door, we'd like to wish all of our listeners a very happy, and scary if you want it to be, Halloween. And you know we had to do things right, so of course we had to come out with a bonus episode. Don't know if you could tell from our roles, but tonight we're reviewing Trick or Treat.
There is no fucking way they would be able to tell from our roles. Let's be real.
You are right, Vampire, you are right. This was directed by Michael Dougherty, starring Anna Paquin as Laurie, Brian Cox as Mr. Krieg, Sam Todd as Rhonda, Brett Kelly as Charlie, and Quinn Lord as Sam. So, this movie opens with a young couple returning from a Halloween celebration. The wife is a total buzzkill, though, and starts taking down the Halloween decorations like that same night, despite Halloween not even being over. This invites the ire of Sam, a diminutive trick-or-treater in orange PJs and a burlap sack over his head. Sam kills the wife and leaves her body for the husband to find. From here, the film kind of takes a little bit of an interesting turn. It goes back to earlier that night and tells 4 separate Halloween tales that take place over the course of the night, and it cuts in between each story from time to time. So just for convenience sake and ease of comprehension, we're going to cover the 4 stories, in their totality, one at a time. Nico, why don't you tell us a story of Charlie and the candy?
I would be happy to. Charlie is a kid who steals candy and smashes jack-o'-lanterns. He goes to his principal's house and sees a bowl of candy with signs saying to take one. Greedily, Charlie takes the candy and begins to eat it. His principal arrives, though, and Charlie becomes violently ill. And it is revealed that the principal poisoned the candy. You hate to see it, folks. He buries Charlie's body with a small interruption from his neighbor and goes to carve jack-o'-lanterns with his son in the basement. The principal pulls a knife, plunges it towards his son, but then retracts the knife, covered in blood. And they make you think that he stabbed his son, but no, in reality, the camera pulls back and we can see that he actually stabs Charlie's severed head, which is the jack-o'-lantern that the two are going to carve together.
Well done, man with vampire accent. Well done.
This is going to be a challenge, I can already tell.
I'm going to be impressed.
Dan, please regale us with the next story, The Wheels on the Bus.
So this next story is about a group of young teenagers, one of which is Rhonda, a girl with savant syndrome. The group heads to an abandoned quarry where supposedly a group of special needs students were drowned due to a plot by some really fucked up parents and their equally fucked up bus driver. Our group of teenagers claim that they want to lay out jack-o'-lanterns to honor the dead. In reality, it's all a prank, and the group dresses as zombies to scare the daylights out of Rhonda.
What little shits!
Things take a turn when the zombies of the dead students actually do appear and begin to kill the group. Rhonda leaves, believing it to be just another prank, and she walks right past little Sam, who does nothing to her.
Vampire Nico, can you please regale us with the next story, The Sisterhood of the Wolf?
Next up is the story of Laurie, her sister, and their group of friends. The group has a party to attend in the woods and are trying to pick up dates to go. Laurie is hesitant and says that she wants her first time to be special. Unfortunately, she attracts the wrong attention of a killer dressed as a vampire. Not like me, though. I look much better. Trust me. The killer then follows her back to the woods, where he seemingly attacks her immediately after. We see his bloody and battered body at the party. And Laurie walks in, to the approval of her sister and the people at the party. Laurie climbs onto the killer and begins her first time. She kills him, they don't fuck. And we cut to the dates that brought the girl to the party. All of them did. The women begin to transform into werewolves. killing the men they brought to the party, and Sam watches the massacre.
Delectable, delightful, but we're not done. Dan, please tell us the last story, Smashing Pumpkins.
So now for the final story, we see things from the perspective of Krieg, the next door neighbor of the guy who killed Charlie in the beginning. Krieg scares away some trick-or-treaters and takes their candy. His window gets egged and things escalate until we see Sam attack him. Krieg tries to fight off Sam, and when Sam's burlap sack is removed, he is shown to be a sort of jack-o'-lantern-esque monster. Krieg shoots him multiple times with a shotgun, but to his disbelief, Sam regenerates and keeps fighting. Finally, Sam attempts to stab Krieg, but ends up stabbing a chocolate bar instead. Sam takes the bar and eats it, which he counts as Krieg giving him candy. Trick or treat. Surprisingly, Krieg lives, but the audience sees a picture which reveals that Krieg was the bus driver who killed the students from the earlier story.
The movie then closes by, funny enough, getting to the start of the movie. So we see Sam watching Krieg handing out candy to some trick-or-treaters, and, he's kind of like keeping an eye on him to make sure that he's handing out candy for real this time. And we also see some appearances from Rhonda and other characters from the stories in the movie. Sam then sees the young couple, the same one from the start of the movie, and he heads off to attack the woman, which, as you will recall, is how the movie started. Krieg goes back inside, but hears a knock on his door. He opens it to see the zombies of the students that he had a hand in killing. The movie ends with the zombie students taking their revenge on Krieg. The end. What a movie. What a movie. And let's go ahead and break it down in the DOTD way. So first off, looks. Vampire Nico, how's this one look?
Well, I was pleased to see that there was an orange tint over everything. It had a very Halloweenish vibe, just the way the hues sort of stood out. And the costume design overall was very good. I, in particular, thought Sam was a much more scary, terrifying little shit than Chucky ever was.
That's a good point.
That's
Way to
the
get
truth.
in your hatred of Chucky, even in a movie
Honestly,
completely
fuck
unrelated.
that little runt. I can't stand him.
I have no words. Dan, how's it look from your perspective?
I agree. I like the costume design quite a bit, actually. I liked the zombie kids. The werewolves I thought looked kind of cool. Sam I thought was cool, though I did like Sam better in just the burlap sack, but that's okay. But I thought the movie looked great.
I agree with you. I dug the special effects. I particularly like the fact that the movie kind of kept its powder dry. You know what I mean? They didn't really need a huge special effects budget.
No, okay, you explained what you mean, I see.
And they only used the special effects in moments where they would have the biggest impact. So the fight with, Sam and Krieg, and we could kind of see, the pumpkin. I assume it's bits of pumpkin that come out of Sam when he gets shot. And
yes, that is pumpkin.
The werewolves, we call it the guts, pumpkin guts. Is that what y'all call it too?
Yeah.
All right. And the werewolves, like when they all took off the werewolves literally like rip off their skin to transform.
Which was fucking metal. As all hell.
It's pretty badass. It is pretty badass. I want to get onto the soundtrack here and the sounds in general. Dan, thoughts on that?
I enjoyed it. I liked the music a lot. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, to be honest, but other than that, I just enjoyed it.
Similar to me, to be honest. I thought it was really nice. It fit the occasion well, and it was something that I largely took for granted, but I think it suited the moods of the movie. Vampire Nico, any words to add?
Yes, I will say that I don't think there were any particular motifs or themes that were established over the film, given that it is largely an anthology of sorts. So the soundtrack was mostly just atmospheric, and to that end, it did a good job.
You said the word, and I want to talk about this. Anthology. So this movie is actually several smaller tales kind of wrapped into one. How did you like the way the stories were presented, where we have the opening, and then the 4 stories basically have cuts between all 4 of them, and then we have the end? How did you feel the way the story was told? And for the audience to really get a clear view, it would jump sometimes from story to story. It wouldn't just tell one story in its entirety like we just did. It would sometimes jump between them. What'd you think about that?
I thought they did it really well, actually. It didn't feel too jumpy. It felt like almost like you're like at a party and you're just like, you know, engaging with these people, and then you just walk over to like another group of people and oh, there's this conversation going on, and then you walk back over to the first group you're at and oh, cool, they're on this conversation now, and then you go to a different group. Like it felt very organic to me. Like it didn't feel really jumpy, and I thought it was a good way to keep the story and the plot like fresh, and I never once tired of anything because they didn't overstay their welcome. I just thought it was really smooth and really well done.
I would have to agree with you there. I think that on the surface, if you were to tell me, hey, this movie tells like 4 different stories and it jumps back and forth and it also starts at the end and then jumps back to the beginning, I'd have been like, it sounds like a mess. But in practice, it's actually done really, really well. And I like the fact that at the end, we see cameos sort of from the other characters. So like, we know from the start of the movie, we hear and we kind of see a little bit of like a car getting close to a kid and suddenly braking and the kid walking out in front of the car. But then we actually see at the end of the movie, that's Rhonda and the werewolf girls. So I thought that was pretty cool. And also at the end of the movie, we see the guy who kills Charlie, we see his son. He's out on the front porch handing out candy to kids. So I like that. I thought it was really well done. And I agree with you, Dan. I think it was cool because the way they worked it, it never did it in an aggravating way. You know what I mean? Like, it was always really cool, in my opinion. So I really dug it. Nico, your thoughts?
I have to agree, and I will say the pacing overall was just magnificent. This felt much shorter than it actually was. In fact, I recall during the last 15 minutes, I had to pause and get a drink, and so I clicked pause because it was on YouTube, and that's how you pause. And I was shocked. I thought there would only have been like about 45 minutes, but no, it had been an hour and 15 minutes.
I, again, have to agree with that. The pacing is extraordinary. The movie itself really isn't even that long to start with, and it keeps things moving. Like, it really does keep things moving.
One thing I will say also, very quickly, is that it is a different experience to take in the stories all chopped up like that, happening somewhat concurrently, somewhat in a time loop. It is not the same as if you would watch them from start to end each time. It's strengthened by the interesting cuts, I would say.
That's an interesting point, Vampire. Dan, do you agree with that the stories are stronger for the cuts, or do you think they would have stood as well individually?
I think that they are stronger, actually, yeah.
I actually agree as well. I think because the stories themselves are so short, I actually think that it would have seemed a lot jumpier if they would have told a short story, then a short story, then a short story. To me, it would have almost seemed robotic or mechanical, you know? But the fact that they kind of had them, to the vampire's point again, you know, with the cuts and everything else, I like that a ton. And again, with more things I like, it's Halloween, obviously, once again. So happy Halloween to both of you. You know what I mean? My co-hosts
Happy Halloween!
on the podcast. So it's Halloween. This is a Halloween movie. How is this for a Halloween movie? Is this something worthy of watching tonight of all nights?
Well, I got to tell you, I was really waiting for Mike Myers to show up.
There was a guy who kind of sort of did a Mike Myers thing at the start.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Dan, how's this rank for you? Is this a dope movie to watch for Halloween? Or do you think or rather I should ask, do you think this movie is better on Halloween than it is, you know, watching it on a different night? Or is it the same no matter what?
I think it's better. That being said, I think even if you watch it not on Halloween, I think it's a great fun time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it does a great job of capturing the Halloween spirit, and it even has some good lessons in it, like always check your candy, you know?
For sure. Always check your candy. Now, Vampire, I want to ask you real quick. Do you agree with what Dan said? Because I certainly do. I think it's great, you know, no matter when, but I think it gets that little extra something on Halloween. I think it captures the spirit really well. How does it capture the spirit for you?
I must say I agree, but I also like this little thought experiment you're running here, Justin. Having us think existentially about something 2 weeks from now. as we record this.
Hey, I'll have you know it's Halloween. And unless we get caught in a time loop, it's still Halloween. More on the time loop later. But
Perhaps there will be some time bewitching incense.
Time
hey,
bewitching
watch out for that.
incense.
That'd be dangerous for you. Watch out. Be careful.
Fuck, you're right.
Now, I want to change real quick and I want to talk about Sam. So Sam is not a little kid or anything like that. He's kind of like almost like a Halloween spirit. And I want to talk a little bit about the lore. So his name is Sam, which is short for the spelling of Samhain, which is spelled Samhein.
Oh, Sam, short for Samhain. It's like Matthew, short for Frederick.
Hey, it works. It works. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong here, but he does seem to go around basically punishing people who kind of violate the tradition or the spirit of Halloween almost, doesn't he?
I mean, I think so. We see him kill, what, 2 people? Or at least, kill one, but attempt to kill another. The wife at the beginning, and then Krieg.
I think he's the one who makes the zombies kill the kids.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm almost certain of that fact.
Okay.
Because I think the principal at the start was talking about how basically like the part of Halloween is kind of respect for the dead. And those kids, I think they were kind of disrespecting the memory and the spirit of those students who died on the bus. So I think that's why they kind of got their just desserts. Also, because they kind of took it too far with Rhonda.
Little bit.
It was like a trick for a trick almost. But one thing that's interesting, and I guess, Nico, I want you to kind of elaborate on this a little bit. Why is it that he stops attacking Krieg once he gets his candy? You think it's that important to him?
I believe it is as simple as you said. He is merely obeying even the rules of the transaction that he is in. He is having an interaction with someone who has wronged him, and the way to right the wrongs in this situation is to give candy to him. He played a trick, and then he received a treat, and he fucks off until the end when he brings back the kids to, finish the job. But,
Yeah. And one other thing that I thought was really cool is Sam is in every story.
I like that Sam is like sometimes a casual observer and it's just like kind of there. I actually like that a lot about Sam. I really liked Sam's character and just kind of like I thought they did a really good job of making him the spirit of Halloween. Like sometimes he is active, but sometimes he's just kind of there observing and making sure that things are going proper to what the Halloween spirit is or whatever. And I
Which
really like
includes
that.
murder, I guess.
Hey, sometimes.
So one thing is, I know he was a character that was actually in an earlier work from the director. And I think it came out in like 99 or something like that.
Oh, we should check that out.
So Sam was in, it was 1996. It was a short film, Season's Greetings. And I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard that he has a more almost kind of heroic presence in that one. And I've seen people describe his role in this one as kind of almost like an anti-hero almost kind of thing, slightly. And
How
I mean,
the fuck? What is heroic? Who does he save?
I guess Halloween.
Well, shit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What would you define him as, Dan? Let's go ahead and bust out the alignments here. Bust out your alignment chart from D&D. What's Sam? Is he like chaotic? Is he good? Is he evil? What is he?
I would say he's lawful evil, maybe?
That's actually a pretty good shout.
I would agree.
I actually
Yeah.
agree as well. Yeah. Well done, Dan. Round of
Thank you,
applause.
Thank you.
Because I definitely think that's his thing.
All right, short talking points.
Well, I mean, Dan pretty much covered it. At times he's an observer, and at other times he's an enforcer of the rules when people break his rules of Halloween, whatever they are. I think one of them is like he didn't like when the lady put out the stuff, like took down the decorations before Halloween was done. So there's that rule. I think he wants people to, if kids come to see you, you got to give candy, otherwise he'll fuck you up. Because we notice he leaves the killers alone. Like this dude literally kills Charlie, and then he's like, like he did follow the rules though.
Oh,
Put out
yeah.
Jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
And Rhonda was dressed up in costume, and she also had a jack-o'-lantern, and she was taking care of it as well. So he liked that.
Yeah, also, she was really fucking dope at carving jack-o'-lanterns, bro. Some of those
Yes,
jack-o'-lanterns
holy
were
shit.
dope.
Her jack-o'-lanterns were really, really
They
fucking
were very
awesome.
good.
So, real quick now, which of the stories is your favorite? Let's start with that. Which of the stories is your favorite, and why?
I think my favorite was the werewolf one because I actually was not expecting them to be werewolves. And like when you see the vampire dude or the dude who dressed up as a vampire, when you see like his body, who wasn't that the principal, right?
That was the principle, yes.
Yeah, the guy who dressed up as a vampire, you find out later he was the principal who killed Charlie. After he kills Charlie, he goes out, like his son had mentioned, like that he was going to a party or whatever. And
Oh shit, I didn't catch that.
yeah, when you get like the reveal of his body, I was just trying to figure out like, well, wait, what happened to him? And then it wasn't until I thought they were like witches for a second, like a coven of witches or something. And then they started like growing fangs and stuff. I was like, oh shit, werewolves. But like, that was just my favorite because I was just not expecting, like I legit thought it was just a group of, I don't know, college aged or whatever girls trying to get laid and have fun,
For sure. Nico, are you on the same tip?
I did rather enjoy that one, but my favorite one was actually the one that Sam was the most involved in, the smashing of the pumpkins, you say. I thought that he was a very, actually, scary figure. I wasn't kidding. The makeup design on him was rather terrifying, and for a movie that was made in 2007, it looks good. The scene where he is fighting with Krieg, it is choreographed well. It has a lot of action. Sam climbs on ceiling. It is good scene. It is good scene.
I liked that one as well. My favorite story, though, I agree with Dan, it's got to be that werewolf one, especially because there's some really awesome foreshadowing. So at a certain point in the party, all like the girls cheer, and they are heard by the kids at the quarry. The ones who are playing a prank on Rhonda. And they go, Rhonda goes, oh my God, werewolves. And it's taken as like, oh, like, like that's just a sound she heard or whatever. But no, it's like really werewolves out there. So I really, really dug that. Also, I love the way that particular story plays on the expectations of you have this girl. And first off, let's talk about the obvious. She's wearing a Little Red Riding Hood outfit.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because, she's so nervous about like her first time. And, everyone's thinking, oh, first time, like sex, like that's what everyone's thinking. And then they're looking for dates and everything else like that. But then all of a sudden it's like, and the cool thing is they hint because they talk about how they bounce around from town to town for Halloween. They're never in the same place twice in a row. Like where we were in Tampa, we were in this place.
They even say it all tastes the same to me. Remember when one of the girls was like, oh, yes, I was with a girl this year. And then one of them else said, oh, yeah, well, it's all the same to me. And you think it's because college girls and they are exploring their sexuality. Yes, but no, they are drinking blood and eating flesh.
That's a really good point. So, yeah, I definitely dug that. And I like the fact that you think she's, almost that Little Red Riding Hood figure.
Is what we call in the film business the old switcheroo.
It was a switcheroo because then she wraps the dude up in the hood, signifying him to be like Little Red Riding Hood. And then he's eaten by the wolf, which is her.
Yeah, because you also, like, they do a good job of making you think that he's actually a vampire.
Yes.
And then later on, they pull his fake teeth out and you're like, oh, shit, he's not.
I guess he just bit that one girl like really hard.
That was my question, because he bit her. She was bleeding from the neck, and then she died. So I don't know what he did. If he just like bit her like mad hard.
I think he bit her wrist as well, but I could be wrong.
Maybe also poisoned her because he had a bunch of poison from earlier.
Oh, he did have poison. So. He did in fact have poison. So it could have been any of those things. Now, who's your favorite character? Doesn't have to be from your favorite story, but who was your favorite character in the movie?
My favorite character, honestly, is Sam. He is terrifying little shit, and I really like his lore. He has rules, and he sticks with them.
I Agree, 100%. I like that he's whimsical is too strong of a word, but he almost comes off as whimsical sometimes, just with like he's just sort of shows up and he's just there. And then when he eats the candy bar and walks away, it's just like, oh yeah, yeah, well, all right, cool. Thanks for the candy. All right, I'm out. And I just really like Sam a lot.
I loved Sam. I liked the character, but my favorite character is actually Rhonda. And that's just because she has so much knowledge about shit. Like she was talking about like Samhain and talking about, like the ancient traditions, and her jack-o'-lantern skills are on point, like to the next level. And she lives, and not only does she live, but she gets like a little head nod from Sam, like the slightest nod of just like, carry on, good citizen. Like she gets that from Sam, and I was like, yo, okay. Like I could see that. So, because she's, I think, one of the few people who gets in a situation like that with him, and she just like walks past, and he's just like, all right, keep carrying on. And she didn't have to give him candy or anything because she was in her outfit. She had her jack-o'-lantern. He was like, carry on. I see nothing wrong here. So I really dug her. I liked her a lot. So now, on this momentous occasion, it's time for the What Would You Do? I'm going to put each of you in a particular story and ask you a question about it. So pick the story, though. Dan, pick which story you want to be a part of.
Smashing Pumpkins.
So you are a neighbor across the street from Krieg, and you kind of hear him screaming and calling for help. And in this kind of reality, Sam doesn't go after the woman like he's supposed to. Instead, he sees some kids come to your house, and he can't really tell if you gave him candy or not. So he approaches. Now, let's say, for example, first off, are you the type to give out candy on Halloween? Are you I personally give it to you? Are you leave a bowl, take one? What's your preferred tactic there?
I'll personally give it to you. I haven't in a couple of years just because there's not really trick-or-treaters around my house, like in my apartment complex and shit.
Also, COVID.
Yeah, oh, well, yeah, that too.
That too.
But yeah, I would totally hand out some candy.
So if you saw somebody like Sam, would you, is he deserving of your candy, do you think, if you didn't know anything about him?
Hell yeah.
Now, let's say you did know about him, but you were out of candy and you see him approaching you. What would you do?
Get more candy.
From where?
I would give him, I don't know, I'd give him some like frozen black bean burgers that I have in my fucking refrigerator. I'd give him something. Shit, I don't know. I would just be like, give him an IOU or something. I don't know. But yeah.
Now, if you didn't have any, what's one thing you would try to do, aside from giving him a black bean burger, which is very delicious? What would you do to try and appease him outside of that?
I would try to trick him.
Oh?
Just play like a harmless joke, because it's trick or treat, right? So I don't have
Fair.
any treats, so
Fair. Fair.
Maybe I'd try to like.
I thought it was you give me treat or I play a trick on you, not like you pick one or the other.
I mean,
wait, I was under
right.
the impression it was the first interpretation. I thought it was, I'm here for like a trick or a treat.
Well, think about all the songs. Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. Is not very transactional. It is more like blackmail.
That is the ancient Latin phrase where it came from. So you are correct on that front. So I don't know, but good ingenuity there, Dan. Nico, vampire Nico. So we're going to set aside your vampiric powers for the time being. Lord of Darkness.
Beans, okay, that is fair.
And which story would you like to take part in?
Hit me with that Charlie and the Candy.
Okay, so we're going to put you in a situation now where you know that this dude is trying to like bury this kid or trying to like take him out, Charlie, and Sam is there. And you have to convince Sam to get rid of the principal, but you don't know how. What would you say, or what could you do to trick the principal into angering Sam? What do you think would be the best way to do that?
So for this situation, I couldn't be like, hey, Sam, this man is clearly burying a kid in his backyard. Do you want to take care of that?
Well, Sam doesn't give a shit. That's not against the rules.
I suppose so. I suppose that is fair. I would probably ask, why are you being such a hard ass to your kid? And try and get the ire of Sam as a sort of wrathful, sprite, childlike figure to go and fuck him up. Other than that, I do not know. Maybe I would just repeatedly ask for more candy?
Oh, until he doesn't give you candy anymore.
Yeah?
That's fair. That is fair. That is fair. Now, lastly, for me, the story that I would want to be in is the one with the werewolves, right?
Naturally.
But what would happen is I'd be like, hey, I'm not gonna get killed here. So what I would do to get out of the situation is I have a silver chain. So the second that my silver chain touches someone and they react a certain way, I'm like, gotta go. I'd be like, I'm gonna go take a piss and then never come back.
That actually is very good reason to carry around silver chain.
It
I give
is,
you that.
yeah.
Why do you think I got one? So I'm not joking. So
I know
that
you're
is
not.
so that's a good what would you do? Very ingenious of y'all to come up with these dastardly solutions to a dastardly plot. But let's talk about the real dastards now. Remember when they used to say the word dastard instead of bastard?
No.
It was simpler time. It was simpler time.
They did used to do that. Trust me. Go back and watch Zoids, bro.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Shout out to
I should.
Zoids. Show fucking whips.
So, judging by the critic response here for Trick or Treat, we've got an 83% from the critics, a 71% from the audience, which is kind of shocking to me. So, I want to know what you'd rate this movie. So, let's go ahead and start with Dan. What'd you rate this one at?
I would put it at an 88. 89. 89.
Oh.
I like this movie quite a bit. I thought it was a great time. Kind of like what Nico said a while back about the movie moving quicker than it seems to be. And like, I also had paused it at one point and had 10 or 15 minutes left. And I was like, oh shit, already? Like, wow. Okay. And I mean that in a good way. And it just felt really smooth. It was a fun movie, and 89 for me.
It's actually going to be an 88 for me. I believe it or not, and I shit you not, audience, I promise this happened. I paused the movie and I had about 10 or 15 minutes left.
Wow.
And Nico, that's when I texted you that I was almost done watching the movie.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, I'm almost done. And I was like, wow, this movie moves by really fast. Sometimes, and I'm not calling no names, but you watch a movie and it's like, bruh, like, when is something about to happen? I thought the pacing was excellent. I thought this movie quite literally had the Halloween spirit. And I don't know, it's like a fun time. And one thing I should say as well, this movie came out back in 2007, and I didn't really get into like YouTube horror shorts until much later on. Like, not much later on, but you know, like I first got into YouTube horror shorts when I was in college. You know, like we'd post up in the dorm room and just watch a bunch of horror shorts. And this, if you think about it, it's like horror shorts with a common thread running through all of them.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really cool concept, and the execution was great. So for that, it's an 88 from me. Nico, your task is almost completed, but what do you rate this movie at?
I'm going to rate this one at a 91. I
Oh.
truly loved this. I only have one problem with movie. When they were talking about the kids who the bus driver killed off, there was the exposition granted that, oh, the parents got tired of their children and they hatched a plan to go and take care of them for the last time. And then we got over to the scene where bus driver stops driving car, and they say, but there was no chance because the plan was halted. Except in vampire voice. And what was plan? What was plan if not kill kids?
That's true.
That's a
good point.
solid point. All I can think about is that he planned on, I don't know, pulling
Scaring the shit out of them?
maybe taking a rock. Maybe he stopped the bus because he was going to take a rock, put it on the accelerator, and
I
then
thought you were going to say something else.
and then, you know, just kind of like make the bus accelerate over the quarry into the lake, also in the quarry.
But that happens anyway.
Yeah. That was,
Mission
I don't know.
accomplished.
I guess in a weird way it was. So there's that. But yeah, all right, Nico. So 91 from you. So is this a recommend from the pod?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a yes from me. Golden seal on the Halloween auspicious night. Is this a golden seal?
I think
I will
so,
say
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh.
Oh!
So it has been. We finally watched one of these Halloween-themed movies that is worthy of the Golden Seal of Approval.
You will recall we gave Golden Seal last year too to Halloween.
That's
It's not
true.
finally, it's again.
2 times out of 2.
I have no words. Except for before I give my usual spiel real quick, can we please insert a round of applause.mp3 podcast, please? Round of applause, everybody, to Nico for keeping up that fucking vampire voice for the entire
So
pod.
fucking
Ladies and
hard.
gents, we bet him that he couldn't do it, and surprisingly, he actually did. So yeah, but until then, if you want to congratulate Nico on his vampire voice, tell us how much you love this movie, go ahead, drop us a line. We're on Instagram and Twitter at DOTD Horror. We're on Facebook, Don't Open That Door. And don't forget, you can check out this and all of our episodes and content on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But till then, keep yourself safe, always check your candy, and as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.